So, today I'm going to talk about prayer. We've been talking about it for the month. And I love prayer. I do. I love prayer. My family prays. I hope your family prays. It means a lot. It means a lot to God. It means a lot to your children. Pray with your kids. Let them see you praying. You know, it will raise your family right. So, how many of us know that men and women are different? Yeah. All right. This may sound like a simple statement. Most of you are thinking, well, duh. We know this, Corey. Have you ever been around a couple having a disagreement? You are just standing there watching them yelling and raising their voices. We all have seen this. You know that if they both just stopped yelling and started focusing on communicating, the fight would be over before it started. But that's not usually what happens. Yeah? It's because the women are mean. That's what it is. But we have all seen it. You know, if they both stopped yelling and actually started communicating, the fight would be over. Well, thank you. I love you so much. I hope you love me someday. Right now, you are all laughing because we've all been there. We've all been in a disagreement with our spouse and raised our voices. And if you haven't, you're a way better husband than I am. All right? But, you see, the couple was talking or screaming but not communicating. Communication is the key to conversation. Communication is the exchange of feelings and facts, sending and receiving ideas. Communication is not just one-sided. Mastering communication makes all the difference. Think about this. When Coca-Cola first shipped to China, they named the product something that was pronounced and sounded like Coca-Cola. The only problem was the characters used meant bite the wax tadpole. That would be a perfect slogan for bass fishing. They later changed a set of characters that meant happiness in the mouth. When Pepsi started marketing its products in China a few years back, they translated their slogan, Pepsi brings you back to life. But the slogan in Chinese really meant Pepsi brings your ancestors back from the grave. Could you imagine? Drink this and it will bring your great-great-great-grandfather back from death. Could you imagine the looks on their faces when they read the Pepsi can? The Chevy Nova, which is a phenomenal car, never sold well in Spanish-speaking countries. In Spanish, Nova means does not go. Men, how many times have you told your wife something and she still got it wrong? Ladies, how many of you have told your husband something, come to find out it was right in front of his face? But we still tend to mess up. Parents, how many of you have told your children something as clearly as possible and they just did the opposite? I can about guarantee it happened this morning. Trust me, I know. Many times when you do get through to the other person, they say things like, oh, that's what you meant. Oh, that's what you wanted. At times, I want to be like, now you know for a fact that's what I wanted. No matter who you are in this life, communication has its challenges. Let's talk about marriage. The late Johnny Carson said, if love is a dream, marriage is the alarm clock. If marriages are made in heaven, well, so is thunder and lightning. Rachel and I can talk all day and never communicate with each other. We have learned that we must communicate no matter what's going on. We must communicate. When we are sad, we must talk. We must communicate. When we are hurt, we must communicate. When we are happy, we must communicate. No matter what, we must communicate. When my wife makes me a grocery list, it must be placed so the items are below one another. Nothing can be written on the side. Nothing can be drawn at the bottom because I'm not going to see it. I promise you. If it's not lined up just perfect, I'm not going to notice it. She says I have man eyes. I can't see anything in front of my face. Okay? But she has learned that that's the way that I communicate. She has learned that if she stacks them one on top of another, lines them up, I'm not going to miss anything. Communicate, even with the grocery list. This brings me to the subject today, prayer. Let's discuss some aspects of prayer. We are a people that believe in prayer. Yeah? All right. We believe prayer changes things. We believe prayer makes things happen. Okay? As you can clearly see, Allison and I are on the same page again today. I'm telling you, coming up here for prayer, it changes things. If you really are going through stuff, come up here and get prayer. It's not about you coming up front. It's about your friends and your family praying with you. Okay? Prayer absolutely works. Just ask my son. He wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for prayer. I had rather stand against the cannons of the wicked than against the prayers of the righteous. Let's study some aspects of prayer. Humble request. This is the time when you ask God for specific needs. So, ask God for personal needs. Ask God for family needs. Ask God for church needs. James 4:2. You have not because you ask not. 2. David. Oh, yep. It's clear in the Bible. You ask not because you get not because you ask not. Right? So what's stopping you from asking? I ask God for direction in my life every day. I ask Him and talk to Him before I ever make any decisions. Because I'm just human and I make mistakes. I don't know what I need to do in my life. Okay? Because I'm just a man. See, I ask for direction because I easily get lost. I easily fall. So I have to pray for these things. You have to pray for direction. Praying for these things will change your life. I promise. See, I can't be trusted to go the right way, so I must communicate with God all the time. Let's talk about intercession. Pray for salvation of souls. Pray for your backslidden family. Pray for your friends who need Christ. There is nothing that makes us love people more than praying with them. We all are sitting in here today, and I guarantee every one of us have somebody that needs to be here. We all have backslidden family. We have friends who need Christ. Why aren't we praying for them? What's stopping us from praying for them? Prayer means everything. Pray for your city. Pray for your world. There are so many people who need to hear about Jesus. We need to be praying for our mayor. We need to be praying for our governor. We need to be praying for our government. They make the decisions for Missouri and the rest of the states. We need to be praying for our president. His decisions affect all of us. I don't care if you don't like him. I don't care if you are a Democrat, you're Republican, you're in the middle, you just don't care, pray for the president. You don't have to like somebody to pray for somebody. He makes the decisions for this country. We need to be praying for him. We can be negative while speaking about government, or we can pray for them. What will make a bigger difference? Praise. Always end your prayer with praise and thanksgiving. See, let me tell you guys about Aliana. Aliana is one of these cool kids. Okay? She's one of these cool kids that like these upbeat songs. Okay? She likes those newer church songs that get played on Sunday nights. She loves them. But you see, Sunday mornings, when those old songs are playing, Aliana walks up to me this morning. She's like, Dad, it's kind of hard to pray and worship to this song. You know what I told her? I cussed her out right there. No, I didn't. You know what I said? I was like, it doesn't matter what music's playing. What's stopping you from worshiping and praying? We didn't have music and we still prayed. Wow. It's a miracle. Right? You don't need music to pray. You don't need music to worship. Okay? I'm telling you what, music makes it easier sometimes, but one of these days you ain't going to be able to hear it anyway. You're going to be too old. So you might as well learn how to pray without it. So always end in prayer and thanksgiving. You start with praise and you end in praise. Praise is so important. There are so many steps to prayer, and we have only covered a couple of them. But it is as important to end your prayer with praise as it is to start with it. When you pray, you encounter a spiritual place. It is like a surgeon opening a wound to repair the body. When you pray and tell God your needs, and you pray for souls, you encounter the spirit world. Not only is God in the world, but so is the devil. They are both working. A surgeon doesn't repair a person and then leave them exposed. The stitching of a person after surgery is just as important as opening up the wound. Now, I don't mean to insinuate that prayer is like surgery. I mean, sometimes, I guess. When I first came back, I needed a lot of surgery. And please believe, every Sunday night, every Sunday morning, I was running this altar, crying and praying. I know who I am and I know what I've done. So I needed God to take it away, wash me clean of it. And the only way for me to do that was to pray. So I guess it's like surgery. You are asking God to fix things in your life. So don't leave prayer without praise. You end intercession with thanksgiving for the same reasons. You feel heavy in intercession. You feel light finishing in praise. Dealing with prayer. Today, dealing with prayer, I think, people misunderstand the concept of prayer. Many think prayer is just a humble request. That is just simply part of prayer. Prayer is not just bringing your needs to God. It is a part of prayer. It does not, however, encompass the whole definition of prayer time. Faith without works is dead. You have to put action to your prayer. Prayer without power is nothing. You have to connect to the power source if you want something to happen. You girls listening? You have to connect to God to be connected to the power source. And you thought Brother Kenny was the only one that did that. I call you out because I love you. Prayer is not just bringing your needs to God. It is just a part of prayer. I have seen people treat prayer like a lazy person sitting on the couch watching TV. They are handed this powerful new tool and excited about using it, but never taken the time to learn how to use it correctly. People use it in a lot of creative ways, but never in the way it was intended. Most of the time I see when someone is happy and everything's working out, they pray less. But as soon as something crazy happens in their life, they're the first ones to run to the altar. We need to be running to the altar all the time. All the time. It's important in the good times and in the bad times. When connected to the power source, it is unstoppable. This is because you become consumed with His will and not your will. You're unstoppable because you have God on your side. So, let's make this very simple. Even though there are many aspects of prayer, many levels of prayer, many ways to enhance your prayer, many ways to progress your prayer, prayer is still simply one thing: communication. We must communicate. Not just talking to God, but communicate with Him. When you're trying to get a new man or a woman, you take time to talk to them, yeah? You ask them, what's your favorite color? Where do you like to eat? That's my first question. Where do you want to go to eat? What do you like to eat? I love food. Okay? Don't worry, she ain't going to tell you because she ain't going to know where to go. I don't know. But you ask things like that because you want to learn about them. You want to communicate with them. It's the same way with God. Ask Him questions. Ask Him His favorite color. Go ahead. He'll reveal it. That's part of communication, is learning about each other. But it is just communicating with the Master. You can learn the aspects of prayer, but must have a heart to start. You must have a heart to start. We must fall in love with the Master. You don't just talk to your friends when you require something of them or need to give them information. You will hold conversations with them about your daily life. Rachel will be messaging her friends every day, just asking random questions. I'm like, man, you guys talk so much. I just maybe message my friends once a week. But we really should be like Rachel and her friends and talk to God daily. All day, every day. Just text Him all day. God, I need you. God, I ate this for breakfast. God, I need direction. God, where do you want me to go next? Who do you want me to pray for? These are the kind of questions you need to be asking. We must have a heart to start. I love it. Have a heart to start. Why not tell God about your day, or a funny story you heard, or about the beautiful sunset you saw today? I know He sees it, but maybe He wants to know how you feel about it. How about you tell Him what somebody did for you today? Just have a conversation with Him. Communicate with Him. Prayer will make a man cease from sin. You want to know how to stop sinning? That's it. Communicate with God. It's so simple. And I'm not free from sin. I'm human. But you want to learn how to do it less? Pray and communicate with God. Prayer will make a man cease from sin, or sin will entice a man to cease from prayer. Are you understanding what I'm saying? This is very, 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 very important. Why is this statement true? Because when you are around people who don't like a certain genre of music, you try not to listen to it, right? When friends don't like certain games, you don't play the games. When you are communicating with God so much, He sticks around. You don't want things like sin to be part of your life. God's a friend. He sticks closer than a brother. Okay? If you're willing to not play a certain type of music, if you're willing not to play a certain game for your worldly friends, why can't you stop sinning for your Father? Why can't you stop sinning for God? Why can't we make that sacrifice for Him? He sacrificed a lot for us on the cross. Because He loves us. He loves us. We need to love Him. See, communication is truly the key. Prayer is a part of my life. When this becomes a part of you, your whole world will change. Your lifestyle will be different. Your conversation will change. Your likes and dislikes, they will change. You will find it easy to talk to God because you have been talking to Him so much. See, before I started talking to God and communicating with Him, every other word out of my mouth was a curse word. Oh no, not you, Corey. If you've ever met my mother, you know why. I hope she's watching. I really hope she's watching. But, I was raised in the world. That was just second language, Sometimes I didn't even realize what I was saying. I treated people badly. I talked about people. I gossiped. Oh, yeah. These are things I did because I had sin in my life. I didn't communicate with God. As soon as I started communicating with God, all of it changed. Not right away. It was small steps because I had to get to know God. You don't get to know somebody right away. It's just baby steps. And you learn about them, and they learn about you. So if you're sinning, and if you're here, you're trying to change, don't get discouraged because you haven't made it right completely yet. Small steps. Small steps. Jen, I'm closing. The key is communication. If you can communicate with your spouse, if you can communicate with your friends, you can communicate with God. It's not hard, I promise you. And sometimes you may hear His voice. Sometimes you will see it through people, situations. God hears you, I promise. Just try communicating with Him. Little story before we close. Roger Sims, hitchhiking his way home, would never forget the date, May 7th. His heavy suitcase made him tired. He was anxious to take off his army uniform once and for all. Flashing the hitchhiking sign to the oncoming car, he lost hope when he saw it was a black, sleek new Cadillac. To his surprise, the car stopped. The passenger door opened. He ran toward the car, tossed a suitcase in the back, and thanked the handsome, well-dressed man as he slid into the front seat. Going home for keeps? Sure am, Roger responded. Well, you're in luck if you're going to Chicago. Well, sir, not quite that far. Do you live in Chicago? Man says, I have a business there. My name is Hanover. After talking about many things, Roger, the army man, was a Christian. He felt like he needed to witness to this man. and he was apparently a successful businessman. So he kept putting it off till he realized he was just about 30 minutes from where he needed to be. It was now or never. So Roger cleared his throat. Mr. Hanover, I would like to talk to you about something very important. Then he proceeded to explain the way of salvation, ultimately asking Mr. Hanover if he would like to change his life and start living for God. To Roger's astonishment, the Cadillac pulled over to the side of the road. Roger thought he was going to be ejected from the car. But the businessman bowed his head and decided to repent and receive the Holy Ghost. When he was done praying, he thanked Roger. This is the greatest thing that has ever happened to me in my life. 5 years went by. Roger married, had a 2-year-old boy, and a business of his own. Packing his suitcase for a business trip to Chicago, he found the small white business card Hanover had given him 5 years before. In Chicago, he looked up Hanover Enterprises. A receptionist told him it was impossible to see Mr. Hanover, but he could see Miss Hanover. A little confused as to what's going on, he was ushered into a lovely office and found himself facing a keen-eyed woman in her 50s. She extended her hand. "You knew my husband?" Roger told how her husband had given him a ride when he was hitchhiking home after the war. "Can you tell me when that was?" "It was May 7th, 5 years ago, the day I was discharged from the Army." "Anything special about that day?" Roger hesitated. Should he mention telling him about Jesus? Since he had come so far, he might as well take the plunge. "Miss Hanover, I explained the gospel." He pulled over to the side of the road and wept against the steering wheel. He gave his life to Christ that day. Explosive sobs shook her body. Getting a grip on herself, she sobbed, "I prayed for my husband's salvation for years. I believed God would save him." "And," said Roger, "where's your husband, Miss Hanover?" "He passed away." She wept, struggling with words. "He was in a car crash after he let you out. He never got home. You see, I thought God had not kept his promise." Sobbing uncontrollably, she added, "I stopped living for God 5 years ago because I thought God never kept his promise." If this man had not been in contact with God, he would have had nothing to tell Mr. Hanover. See, Jesus was in that car with him that day. He may have said to himself, "I'll just send him a letter." It's so important to learn about the power of communication, also known as prayer. See, we need to learn how to have fellowship with our Maker. If we do, it will all be okay. We must communicate. So I ask you all today, are you willing to come to the altar and communicate with him today? Are you willing to change your life? You never know where you're going to be tomorrow. Anything can happen. Why are we willing to miss out? So, I ask you today, come to this altar and start communicating with God. Let's get connected to God through prayer as a church and as a people.